Hi, everyone. This is our very first live streamed Z Brief. So please bear with us as we try to figure this out. I would like to thank Anastasia Matthews, one of our projectionists at the IFS, for joining me most weeks to talk about movies that you can screen on the IFS website. I'd also like to thank Jason Phelps, who is our senior IFS projectionist and also the man usually behind the curtain who handles the tech side of things and allows us to do these short movie reviews. And we do try to keep it short, usually 6 minutes, but we might let things go on a little bit longer today because we're playing around with this live stream event. Anyway, today, Anna and I will discuss an Italian-Russian period piece and co-production about Michelangelo, and it's directed and co-written by Andrei Konchalovsky. The Italian title is Il Peccato. The English title is one word, Sin. The story focuses on Michelangelo's struggle to complete the tomb of the late Pope Julius II, despite all kinds of money and blood feuds with very powerful and so-called noblemen who are the ones who control the purse strings. Jason, why don't we give folks a 30-second, 40-second taste of the trailer?
Tutti ammirano il vostro lavoro, dicono divino. Migliore di Raffaello, migliore di Leonardo. Siete il migliore.
Michelangelo. Divino.
Io non ho limite. Sono incapace di controllarvi. Andate via! Ogni mio progetto va sempre oltre il limite delle mie forze. Non merito queste creature. Sono un vecchio uomo. Sono incapace.
All right, so now Konchalovsky, just to give people a little bit of context, he collaborated with Andrei Tarkovsky on a couple of films way back in the day, and he released his first feature in 1965. He went on to direct a lot of movies, including Uncle Vanya in 1970. He's branched out into many languages, gone in lots of different directions. He's worked with all kinds of actors and gone in all kinds of genres. I do want to give a special shout out to Runaway Train, which is from 1985 with John Voight and Eric Roberts. And although it's not as good as Emperor of the North, which is a great 1973 film by Robert Aldrich, also involving desperate people on a train, but Runaway Train was a real fun action film about escaped convicts who are trapped on a train with no brakes and nobody driving, which will probably make you think or remind you of another film that came out almost 10 years later with a very similar concept, but it put Keanu Reeves and Dennis Hopper on a bus. And that one made a lot of money. But anyway, I'm digressing. We're here to talk about Sin. And I want to give a real special shout out to the lead actor who plays Michelangelo, Alberto Testone. I think I've only ever seen him in one other movie. And Anna, this should interest you because I know you're a big fan of Pasolini, and he played the part of Paolo Pasolini in a 2013 movie about his life that was directed by Federico Bruno. But anyway, Tostone just put in a very powerful performance. I mean, that's what I thought. What did you think, Anna?
I loved it. The performance was absolutely amazing. Just the amount of energy that he had and how he was pulled so many different ways, I thought really added to the film. And it was comical too, which is something I wasn't necessarily expecting, but it was a really funny movie, I think largely in part from his performance. So the performance definitely elevated it for sure.
Yeah, and I have to say the art design was amazing. The special effects, which I think were done mostly by the Russian crew, and again, this the locations that were in Italy, Tuscany and Florence, It all was integrated very seamlessly. It was all just very well done. What were some other highlights for you, Anna?
I loved the focus of the film, the specific time period in Michelangelo's life that they centered on. Seeing the different trials of the tomb and how that came to be, I thought was something that's not talked a lot about. It's usually the Sistine Chapel and David that people associate Michelangelo with. So it was cool to see all of the history and troubles that grew with that. And of course, the cinematography was absolutely beautiful. The views and contrasting the beautiful parts with also the less sanitary parts of the era. And the aspect ratio was also a really interesting choice that I think worked well for this film.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the aspect ratio. I should also, for anyone who didn't already listen to my podcast with Alex Cox, our last podcast, we were joined by his wife, Todd Davies, who they had both actually met Konchalovsky because they'd been working on a documentary about Kurosawa. And Konchalovsky had a really interesting interaction with Kurosawa, which they shared in the podcast. So if anyone's interested in finding out more about that, please check out that podcast. But in that podcast, Alex mentioned how he thought that the aspect ratio, which is a lot boxier, like, so it wasn't the usual widescreen anamorphic sort of scenario that you would expect for a period piece. But he thought that that sort of boxy aspect ratio was one that sort of mimicked the sort of a vertical way of looking at things, to kind of, because when you think of Michelangelo or the Sistine Chapel, it's about, you know, it's having the eye go toward the ceiling, or, you know, toward the heavens. So there was definitely some interesting things going on in there. There was also 8 years of research that got put in, you know, that was, you know, they were able to thread into the movie. I thought one of the interesting bits of trivia regarding this movie is how Russian President Vladimir Putin gifted Pope Francis a pre-release of this film on July 4th of 2019. And he presented the gift to the Pope, and he basically said, you know, that Konchalovsky personally asked him to ask the Pope to watch it. So that's, you know, which is very apt, because of course the movie has to deal with, you know, the popes and, you know, a lot of the politics of the time. I have to put one last thing that I'll say is that during the podcast, I sort of mistakenly almost smeared, I guess, Konchalovsky with having directed Tango and Cash, which I'd never seen, and I saw it last night. It's on HBO Max, and he's actually only one of 4 directors. Tango and Cash was a pretty it's one of those films that came out in the mid 80s, and it's got all kinds of mid 80s stuff, you know, feathered hair, and you know, Kurt Russell and Sylvester Stallone walking around nude sometimes, or in tank tops, and, you know, all muscly, and lots of car chases and cocaine, and, you know, just people getting shot, and nudity. And it's an over the top 80s film that is totally over the top. And it won a lot of Razzie Awards. I have to say the first third was extremely entertaining. It also has Jack Palance. But it is totally over the top. Very, it's kind of cheesy. And Konchalovsky was only one of 4 people who had a hand in that particular venture. So if you're going to see one of his action films, again, Runaway Train is where I would point you to. But if you want to see something new by Konchalovsky, we certainly hope that you'll check out internationalfilmseries.com. And again, I want to thank the distributors who participate with us and allow us to do these virtual screenings. They are splitting the proceeds with us, which gives us, you know, it gives us a little purchase while we wait for the quarantine to settle down, so we can go back into Munzinger. All right, so we've gone a little longer than our 6 minutes, but I do want to thank anyone out there who's been maybe watching this. And in the future, if we get a little traction on this, maybe we'll even, you know, engage with any comments that might come our way. But otherwise, we're just trying to get a hang of this. And Ana, thank you so much for joining. Jason, thanks for providing this platform. And we'll do this again soon, maybe next week. We'll see. So thanks.
Ciao.